Hi, I'm Lady Genevieve, and today's video is a spoiler-free review of The Boys Season 3, Episode 7. Or at least, I'm going to attempt to review it a little bit because there are so many major developments and explorations of characters in this episode, and more or less every single thing that happens is listed on this episode's Do Not Reveal list. If you don't know what a Do Not Reveal list is, allow me to explain. Whenever critics, journalists, reviewers, whatever you would like to call them, are given press screeners of entertainment media before that media is released to the masses, sometimes the publicist or publicity team will also provide a do not reveal list of specific plot details that people are forbidden from revealing ahead of the embargo lifting or ahead of the official release date. Since episode 6 has already aired, I can use that episode as an example. Some of the do not reveals for the Herogasm episode included the murder of Blue Hawk, the demise of Termite, and Starlight quitting the Seven. So if you saw any of those things being revealed somewhere online before the episode aired, those people were violating the show's Do Not Reveal list and the embargo. So for episode 7, there are a ton of major developments and explorations of a lot of members of the large ensemble of leading characters, and more or less all of those things are on the Do Not Reveal list. And I, as a result, have to choose my words very, very carefully in order to try to be able to provide some feedback about this episode without violating any of those Do Not Reveals. If you watched my first review video that was specifically about The Boys Season 3, you will have heard me say that even though overall I really like this season, one of the issues I had with Season 3 was in relation to certain socio-political commentary, and this episode, episode 7, is when I'm finally going to explain a little bit more about the main storyline detail in this season that I had in mind when I was saying that I had issues with this season's socio-political commentary. You may have noticed this season that some of the things Homelander has said or done have been symbolic of certain critiques of 45. Well, there is a different character in the ensemble who, in a way, has something in the show's material that positions that character to be symbolic of a different political figure, and the approach to that completely irritates me because the way that it's presented in the show, it feels like the show's narrative is saying that this politician in real life is good but was being unfairly disliked or slandered and so on and so forth. And it's just, no, that politician has done plenty of horrific things. Maybe you just don't bother to learn anything about those things because you are simply lacking the knowledge of the state of the world from an anti-imperialist perspective. I think if you've been watching my reviews each week of this season, you know that I tend to get political when discussing each episode because the material of this show necessitates a discussion of the relevant matters in real life that pertain to the writing of this season. So make no mistake, you are definitely going to get an earful again when I post the spoiler review of this episode. We will have plenty of the usual talk about things like the plot and character developments, but I've really hit a breaking point now where my patience is stretched to its limits, and if you have a bad take on this show, I'm not going to pretend that it's not a bad take, even if I do like a lot of the other things about The Boys as a show. If we rewind to when season 2 was airing, the season's material felt very timely. The show's writing was addressing certain matters related to things like police brutality, and during the time of that season airing, there were a lot of protests happening in the States to protest against police brutality. Well, without giving away specifics, I think this episode has some rather eerie and unfortunate timing once again. So I would just say, without specifying, if you are feeling emotionally or psychologically drained by basically the biggest news story that's happening right now in the US, maybe you'll want to have some rom-coms on standby once again to watch after you watch episode 7, because when I was rewatching this episode's press screener in order to refresh myself to attempt to write a spoiler-free review and a spoiler review, the viewing presented some challenges because of how tired I am due to certain things going on in the US. If you don't know which rom-com to have on standby, I personally would recommend The Wedding Date. the Lost City, or Kate and Leopold. By the way, I know some of you are new to my channel with these reviews that I've been doing about The Boys Season 3, so even though I have said this multiple times in the past, I'm going to mention it again. I want Huey's mother to come back into his life at some point on the show, and I want Meg Ryan to play her. We need to put some respect on her name for being a Hall of Fame rom-com lead, and she deserves for a whole new generation of people to get introduced to her as such, a rom-com legend. Out of everyone's story developments in episode 7, I would say that the least interesting in general, but also to do with the larger story ecosystem of what's happening in this season, is the Deep. It's just him being annoying and tacky like usual. Whenever the Deep is eating up screen time while far more interesting, compelling characters have only a little bit of airtime in an episode, it irritates me beyond belief. We all saw what the Deep did in episode 6, Herogasm. And yeah, okay, it added shock value, but what did it offer to the larger story? What did it add to the themes or socio-political commentary of this season? Nothing. It was just the show being gross for the sake of being gross and wasting my time. One thing I will say about this episode, though, that is positive is that there are two characters I have been wanting to see interact more with each other, and we haven't really been able to see them getting proper time together to have these meaningful interactions in season 3, but in this episode, episode 7, we finally get to see them together, and the context of them interacting just really warmed my heart. Now that we know that the show has been renewed, if we don't see these two characters, who I'm not specifying, interacting more in season 4, Eric Kripke, we're going to have words. I know in the past I've sometimes given recommended reading for certain topics ahead of an episode airing. It's usually been political, historical things, but for this episode, I would actually recommend that you look up who Martin Brest is, if you don't already know. He's not as relevant to the larger story as some of the historical things I've put a spotlight on ahead of different episodes airing this season, but I do know that I'm going to talk a bit about him more than people who have already seen this episode might expect me to, so just feel free to look him up, because I have some things to say. So yes, I'm also probably going to go on a bit of a tangent about certain people being bad at accents that they're meant to be doing for their characters. I don't know why you can't just hire performers who already speak with that accent, but anyway. Episode 7 is a good Kimiko episode, but I'm biased about her, and I always think she does what needs to be done. If you've been watching my reviews about this season since the beginning, you may remember that I had some very strong opinions about Kimchi's material this season. So this is more or less the point in the season where I will have the most agitation about certain details about how their seasonal arc has been constructed and executed. I ship Kimchi. I've been shipping them since he had met her for all of 5 seconds in season 1 and immediately started calling her mon coeur. So I have a lot of opinions about them. I feel like I need to explain to you viewers who are new to my channel that part of the reason I get so opinionated and long-winded about Frenchie and Kimiko's relationship each and every week is not just because I ship them, it's also because I am someone that has been messed with over and over again when it comes to my ships in entertainment media. Selfie got cancelled before Henry and Eliza could be a real thing. Jesus and Lafayette ended sadly because Jesus died. Same thing happened with Danny and Grace in Terminator Dark Fate. The Punisher got cancelled before Frank and Karen could kiss. Hollywood has been messing with me for far too long. And you might as well call me Howard Beale, because I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Don't mess with my ships, and don't play games with my ships. I've had enough. They're not breaking up, don't worry. It's just me nitpicking their material to a degree that only a Kimchi shipper would. Do I think that the general audience of The Boys, people who think someone like Homelander or Butcher is the best part of the show, is going to care about Kimchi's material in this episode, episode 7? Not at all. This agitated energy is strictly a Kimchi shipper thing. But finally, I know that some of the most consistent people who have been showing up for my videos about season 3 of The Boys have been Jensen Ackles fans or stans, whatever you'd like to call them. So let me drop just 1 or 2 little tidbits in relation to him. There is a lot going on for him in this episode that I obviously cannot say because it's on the do not reveal list, but if I'm being very careful with my words, if you've been watching some of the promotional press content for this season, you may have seen Jensen Ackles mention here or there that Eric Kripke likes to mess with his talent. And if you let your weakness slip, Eric is even more likely to put that weakness into the show or find some way to mess with you through the show's writing. Jensen Ackles has said that he had something in his material that really was a lot for him. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of Jensen's fans have been on the lookout for whatever that thing would be. Maybe some folks thought it could happen in the Herogasm episode because of the nature of what Herogasm is as a storytelling concept, but it didn't happen. There are only 2 episodes left, and the time has come. You're now going to finally see what Jensen has been talking circles around. Personally, I don't know if I think that it's worth the buildup because I don't know what people are expecting it to be. I haven't really done any digging into what fans are theorizing it is, but either way, episode 7 is here, so your questions will be answered. Another really small detail that I can tease about Jensen in this episode is you will see him in wardrobe that I don't think you've ever seen him in before. To be fair, I have not seen all 15 seasons of Supernatural, respectfully. I cannot stay invested that long. That's too many episodes. It's too many years. For example, I used to love Grey's Anatomy, but even that I had to stop watching after a while. But I was looking through the Boys tag on Twitter, searching keywords to see if I could learn any tidbits that would be relevant to my reviews and general commentary about this season to use when making these reviews. And I saw a lot of Jensen stans expressing their appreciation for his outfit last week that he wore in the motel room. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really give much thought to that outfit when I was watching the press screener for that episode before it was released to the masses, but this attire in episode 7 that I'm tiptoeing around, it did catch my attention. So if that's the case, I can only imagine how Jensen's stans are going to feel. It's a look, not a look, a look. So enjoy it. You don't get to see him wear it for as long as you did that outfit in episode 6 that I saw some people tweeting about, but I think that this Luke is better. So you'll be able to screenshot it, make fan art, add the footage to your collections for your fan cams. Whatever your preferred means of expressing appreciation is, it's going to get added to the playlist. I have zero doubt about that. I know this video is really short, but pretty much everything in this episode that I would have liked to have previewed in some way is on the do not reveal list. So trying to put together any type of shared opinions ahead of this release was especially difficult to do. And I didn't want to just not do a video and make the people who have been watching my reviews about this season think that I was skipping an upload just for the sake of it. My spoiler review of episode 6 jumped up in length. It was almost 27 minutes long. I don't know how long the spoiler review of episode 7 will be, but I would guess it will be another long one simply because of how eventful this episode is. It's not like we're doing that thing where we just have a major character missing like last week with Maeve. All the major players have stuff going on this week. We're in the final push and there's no slowing down now. Oh, and one final note. Huey is less annoying to me in this episode. He has been very irritating to me for a lot of this season, but he's less so this time around. So we love that for him. Thanks everyone for watching. I don't know if this video will go up first or my review of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, but either way, make sure you watch that video if or when it's posted because I went and saw Elvis on opening day and it's now my favorite film of 2022. Baz Luhrmann is a legend and he has returned to grace us with cinema and I have some things to say about that. So, see you in the next video. Bye.